Hi, in today's video, I would love to talk to you about decluttering like a designer. It's different than just throwing away all the stuff that you own that doesn't fit in your space. So try this new method and tell me what you think of it as you are following the decluttering process. So everyone has heard of decluttering in terms of removing things from our home that we don't want anymore or use anymore and just getting rid of it all. But I want you to challenge yourself to a new way of thinking, and that is to declutter like a designer. And that involves not just removing things from the home, but deciding what stays in the home. So come with me and we'll explore what that means and how you might be able to use it in your decluttering process. I'm Susan Young with Color Joy Interiors, and I help homeowners create the rooms that they love for less. And today we're going to be talking about decluttering like a designer. So before you start tossing things that you think maybe don't work in your room, I want you to think twice about that and know that we all live in an age of too much stuff. We struggle with overwhelm when it comes to, decluttering our home, but I want to challenge you with a new way of thinking. And that is that we need to look at our space first and decide, how does this item fit in the space and the vision that we have for that room? And it can make it hard for us to throw things away when we have things in our room that we love, things that have useful life. So instead of just throwing everything out that we think maybe doesn't work, let's start with a different process. So how can we declutter like a designer? The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what do I want this room to become? So thinking again about the vision of your space, how do I want to feel when I'm in the room? Just think about that for a moment, and that's going to help you define kind of the purpose of the room, and it'll help you when you're decluttering. So for instance, think of a zone in the room, such as where you're sitting, or do you need it for entertaining? Do you need it for eating, playing, watching TV, whatever the case may be for the room? So thinking about the functionality helps you to determine what stays and what goes. So do this at a very high level, and then you're going to move on to the next step. And that is, what areas of your home are not working for you from a functional or an aesthetic standpoint. So maybe your closet's full, your kids' toys are overwhelming the room, and they need a place to go. These are things that you want to keep in mind as you're decluttering. And then question, are there things that don't belong in this room? So this is where we go back to the vision of the space. And if something doesn't belong, basically what we're going to do is remove it or relocate it from a room to a different room, or relocate it in terms of putting it away to recycle or donate if we don't want it. So in that case, we would get rid of something, but it's not necessarily that the item needs to go, it's just that it needs to not belong in this particular room. So the next step would be, are there things that are needed in the room, but you don't have the proper storage for them? So as we mentioned before, like with kids' toys, perhaps they need some type of a storage solution. So make a note of the items that belong in the room, but they need proper storage. And that is where we can, purchase something that can make that possible. And then are there items that you would like to use in the room, but you're not sure how? So this might be an art piece that you've wanted to put on the wall, but you just haven't found a spot for it, or maybe a decor item that you want to display, but the room is too cluttered right now and you can't really tell how it's going to work in the room. But it does fit the vision of the space. That's something you're going to want to hold on to and figure out how we can use that in the space once we have decluttered. And then, are there items in the room that are in good shape and have useful life, but maybe they need a refresh? So perhaps they don't fit the color scheme of the room or the vision you had, it's the wrong style. So maybe this is something that you can update, recycle the piece, add new knobs, paint it, add a lampshade that's different than the one you have. So these are types of things where we are not necessarily getting rid of the item, we're not having to buy something new, but we're repurposing it in terms of the aesthetic we're looking for, just to give it more useful life. And another question I want you to ask is, are there items in your home that are elsewhere in your home that you could use for this space? And this is where I'm talking about storage specifically, because possibly you have boxes or bins, trunks, shelves, cabinets, things that could be used for storage or organization for this particular room, but maybe you haven't thought of using them in that way. So those can be brought in and then become items that are functional in this new space that you're creating. So perhaps you have a chair that needs to be brought in for extra seating, or lamps or tables that make more sense for the flow of the room, accessories that maybe fit the space that you're creating. So don't be afraid to mix and match items in your home that may work as you're decluttering, because this is the time to think about those things. And maybe you hadn't thought of them before because you weren't looking at this space from the vision standpoint. So just keep that in mind as you are decluttering and organizing. And could there be any items in the room that you plan to get rid of that you could sell to fund your new room design? So if you have furniture, but you really don't think it's going to work in your space, could you sell it, make a couple $100, and use that to fund your design? It's a great way to stay budget friendly, to not feel like you're just getting rid of things, and hopefully you can put those funds then towards something new or something that you can use to organize your space. So a lot of places you can go to do that would be like a Facebook marketplace. You could go on your neighborhood message boards and see if anyone is willing to buy it, friends and family, or even a consignment store, just kind of depending on what's in your area. If it's a small enough item, you could use Poshmark or one of the online selling sites to get rid of your items. So just think about that as from a budget standpoint, how you can fund your space. And a lot of times we're being resourceful when we're decorating. So something to think about. And some final thoughts about decluttering like a designer are that it's less about removing things from the room and more about what needs to stay in, and how you can be resourceful with what you have and making your home work better for you. So don't be thinking about just getting rid of everything. Be thinking about what's in the space now, what do I need to have in the space, and what do I have on hand that would work. And if also, what do I need to buy that maybe would complement what I'm looking to do in this space. And that's part of the design process that I talk about in my course, The Color Joy Method. So I'll talk more about that later. But again, edit your items with care. Don't necessarily get rid of everything. Leave the things that bring you joy. That heirloom piece that you've held on to, that favorite, fabric or art piece that you want to display proudly. There's no reason to get rid of those items just because you feel like you're out of space for them. You can also seasonally rotate things if you have the room to store those, and that can be a great way for you to introduce items on a regular basis without getting rid of them. So I think it's more about containing the things that you have, doing that in a logical and beautiful way rather than it is to just get rid of everything. And then ensure that your room is going to function. That's the most important thing, as it should, like with layout and furniture, the activities you're doing in the space, as well as the storage. Because if you look at the room and it's still too cluttered, then you've not really gone through that process completely to remove the things that don't work in the room. And then make sure all of your pieces are going to fit from a style standpoint, and that could be the color palette that you've chosen, the vision that you have for the space. And again, that's more what we talk about in my course. If you're interested, the information will be down below. And I also have a free guide that I would love to share, and it's called Declutter to Design. And it's all about the designer process for decluttering your room as a first step in the design of a room process. And I would love for you to pick up that free guide and follow along and see as you're renovating your room if this is a helpful resource for you. So find the information down below, and I would love to know what your thoughts are on it. So before you throw away everything that you own in your decluttering process, I want you to really think twice about your vision for the room, how to declutter like a designer, and use the steps that I've shown you today to create the space that you love. So thank you for watching, and subscribe if you'd like more tips like this.